All right, here we go. Let's do this. Another episode. Welcome, everybody, to the Bark Tank. The day after the Browns lose to the Bengals here in Cleveland. My name is Andrew Siciliano, coming to you today from the Cross Country Mortgage Campus in Berea, Ohio. No longer in the home office today with a scratchy voice and everything. We are actually in the building. After the Browns lose again, they have dropped now 5 consecutive, and they dropped to 1-6. I think I said this last week. I mean it more this week than any other time we have done this show or I've spoken on a Monday in a long, long time. There is a lot to unpack from that game. The headline is obviously the Browns lose. Headline number 2 is, and maybe it's even bigger than headline number 1, Deshaun Watson, torn Achilles, right Achilles, and he is done for the season. Deshaun's going to have season-ending surgery. Well, the injury ended the season, but surgery to fix the season-ending injury this week, and then a long rehab process begins. Kevin Stefanski on Monday did not have any insight as to what kind of surgery it will be, meaning, is it a traditional Achilles tear repair, or is it what they call a speed bridge repair surgery operation, which was the type of injury or the type of surgery that Aaron Rodgers did last year, and the year before that, Rams running back Cam Akers. It was a surgery that, and again, those injuries happened early in the season for Rodgers, week 1, 4 plays in, and for Cam Akers the year before, in July, about 2 weeks before training camp. The speed bridge procedure by Dr. Neil Elatrosh in Los Angeles can potentially get you back in 4 to 5 months. Now, the injury happening week 7, that seems to be an unlikelihood. I'm not a doctor. Deshaun's season is over. What kind of surgery he has isn't really part of the story. What the story is, he's not going to be on the field this year, and he'll be back potentially next season. Let's talk about the elephant in the room here. Obviously, Browns players were upset after the game that the reaction when Deshaun got hurt was mixed. Let's put it that way. We're in the building clearly, and it was mixed. I support players who support their teammates. You at home support your family members. You support your coworkers. Those are people that you live with and work with and go to battle with and support every day. When one of them is hurt, when one of them is attacked, you are going to support them. There's nothing wrong with that. Matter of fact, it is the right thing to do. It's also the right thing to do for you who are in the stands that push back against those that were cheering and booing and somehow celebrating Deshaun's injury. That's wrong. That's absolutely wrong. Talking to a lot of people who were in the stands, my brother included, they all said it was uncomfortable to hear that reaction. But almost everybody told me that it was good that there were those in the stands who told those people, hey, man, cut it out. So all of that is true. It was wrong to react that way. It was right for Browns players to support their teammate. And we can move forward. It was uncomfortable. It truly was. I also think some of the timing of Dorian Thompson-Robinson warming up, that elicited some of the cheers as well. But clearly, there were those in the building that reacted the wrong way. And I support players who defend their player that they go to work with and battle with every day. Because the only guy they know is the guy that's in this building every day. And the guy that they see busting his tail to be out there. No, the performance isn't what anyone wants. We all know that. But you can't boo or you can't take joy in a player getting injured. That's just wrong. It's wrong. We all know that. I also celebrate the fans that were in the building that had the right reaction and told those people reacting in the wrong way that, hey, we are better than that. That's from where I stand in the booth, and Nathan's going to join us later. He was there with me as well, And look, we're looking down on it. We're fans as well. We're trying to paint the picture, and we all want the same thing, and that is good play from everybody on the field and a victory. It didn't happen. Now you turn the page and try to figure out what to do moving forward, not only with this team but with the quarterback as well. As we sit here on Monday afternoon, that quarterback right now for Week 8 is very much a question mark. We know this, however, eventually Dorian Thompson-Robinson is going to get a shot, we think, and deserves a shot, I know, at one point this season for an extended run. I believe in the guy. I really do. I want to go back to a conversation I had with him before the draft when I was at NFL Network. He came to the studio. I was hosting a show called NFL Now at that point. He had just visited the Browns on one of his pre-draft visits, and we talked a lot about how great he thought the visit was, how he badly wanted to come here, and then it worked out. A couple of weeks later, 5th-round pick, and he's here. DTR started more than 50 games at UCLA. For a good offensive coordinator and head coach in Chip Kelly, guy obviously now with the Buckeyes, DTR experience means something. Look at Brock Purdy. Look at Bo Nix. Look at Dylan Gabriel. Sorry, Buckeyes fans, there at Oregon. When you start that many games in college, that means something. You take that to the next level. Part of what Anthony Richardson is going through right now in Indianapolis is that he only had a dozen starts in college. This is new to him. DTR has started 2.5 times more games beyond high school, 3 times more games beyond high school than Anthony Richardson. I really do believe that if you give him an extended shot, he's going to play good football. Now, is he the long-term guy? I don't know. But he deserves a shot. So tip of the cap to him for making some plays. See the way the sideline reacts on his 34-yard run where he pulled it, sprinted down the right sideline, picked up a first down. They're going to rally around him if it's him, and they're going to rally around Jameis Winston if it's him as well. Because Jameis, granted, they're rushing 4, dropping 7. Jameis made some throws. He made some throws. And you push the ball downfield, you got to do that if you want the run game to open up. Weren't a lot of holes there for Nick Chubb. You make the most of them. The way you open up the run game is you take shots downfield. You don't have to be chucking it 50 yards downfield, but you have to keep defenses honest. And I believe either of those quarterbacks will do that, whomever gets that shot. Some other positives, I think, from Sunday. Cedric Tillman got his shot, DTR's teammate from Bishop Gorman, growing up in Las Vegas. 8 for 81. By the way, that team in Vegas, brief aside, Jalen Naylor, Dorian Thompson. So DTR, his wide receivers were Cedric Tillman, Jalen Naylor with the Vikings, and his tight end was Brevin Jordan of the Texans. How about that for a high school lineup? Go ahead and stop those guys. But I digress. Cedric Tillman, 8 for 81. He made plays. Chief, 10 receptions. That ties a career high. He had 10 in the game against the Bears last year. On the defensive side, Denzel Ward leads the NFL with 12 passes broken up. Playing great football. JOK, I thought should have had a tackle for a loss. They said that one that he had at the line was at the line, not in the backfield. He had 7 tackles. He continues to be a shapeshifter and play great football. And Mike Hall as well, in only his second game in the NFL. Got in the backfield. Stat sheet doesn't show it, but he was disruptive. He got upfield. He was held at least once, maybe a couple of times. Mike Hall is a disruptive player who is, I think, already paying dividends. And again, he's only going to get better. He is young, and this is only his second game. You have to build on those positives. You got to look for positives. There are enough positives where you got to put them all together and hope that those positives can lead to a win coming up next week against the Ravens. Also want to say, tip of the cap to William Drayton. You know who that is? You also know him by Flavor Flav. He is 65 years old. It is hard to break a guitar at 65 years old. Okay? I don't know that we thought it would take a dozen swings as the dog pound captain. But hey, William Drayton, good job, buddy. You got it done. It only took Jim Donovan one swing. 68 years old. The great Jim Donovan, 67 when he did it. We love you, we miss you. The great Jim Donovan broke that guitar. Flavor Flav, legend of my youth, unable to break the guitar. But Flavor, we are happy that you were there. And you know what? It led to a fun atmosphere. And Nick Chubb, I haven't even touched on Nick Chubb. We've talked a lot about Nick Chubb. We know what Nick Chubb means. The number 24 jerseys in the room, in the building, those feels were real. Can't believe they're 10 minutes in and haven't talked about Nick Chubb. I can tell you that Nick Chubb spoke to the team on Saturday night. We talked about this a little bit on the broadcast on Sunday. I'm told there were many a moist eye in the audience. He didn't say much, but it was a powerful message. He thanked his team for supporting him on his comeback. 13 months, it was a long road, and you saw that emotion come out from all of us in the building. I was down on the field around, what time was it? 10:30. Good 2.5 hours before the game. Nick Chubb was the only man out there. Getting stretched, getting ready, getting his mind right. I had somebody come up to me and say, that guy would have slept here if he could have. He was that ready for this moment. And I know that you, as a fan, wherever you're listening or watching this, and we as fans, were ready for that moment as well. And clearly Nick was ready. The pitch count was what it was. You're going to see more Nick Chubb. He came through it fine. That's the encouraging headline. No worse for wear on Monday morning for Nick Chubb. He's had some great moments against the Ravens. Hopefully, we have some great moments this week when the Ravens come to town as this 3-game homestand here continues. All right, time for a special guest. Oh, you want to do this now? You ready? You ready to? Let's get him in here. All right, let's get him in here. All right, because we are doing the Bark Tank actually at the Cross Country Mortgage campus today after the loss to the Bengals, that means we could get the most special of guests. The most. It is my pleasure to welcome for the very first time on the Bark Tank my partner on Sunday, my wingman. Actually, I feel like I'm his. That's the better way to say it. Nathan Zegura, it is great to see you.
It's great to see you, and what an introduction, and what an honor to be on the Bark Tank. Hopefully the first of many forays into the podcasting realm.
Yes, good use of forays, as if you had anything else on your plate this week. I greatly appreciate you doing this. Let's go back to what we saw on Sunday. It was one of those, and you and I talked about this earlier, roller coaster of emotions day. Really, a roller coaster of emotions weekend. You had the Guardians and the Yankees, the ALCS. You had everything going on in town with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You had Flavor Flav unable to break a guitar for reasons that still to this day escape me. Regardless, hey, William Drayton, we love you. And then you had the football game. And then you had Nick Chubb scoring and getting in, and all the feels, all the happy emotions. And then you had the Deshaun injury and everything that came with that, which I know we will be unpacking undoubtedly for not only days to come, but weeks to come and months, if not years to come. When you walk in the front door last night and you're back home and someone says, how'd it go? Like, how do you even begin to explain what that Sunday felt like?
It's a really good question. I'll kind of take it back.
Because I know I had trouble.
Yeah, because there were so much happened, and in some ways, things that are going to have long-term ramifications,
Absolutely.
Some that will certainly not have as long-term ramifications. But I can tell you, driving in to the stadium yesterday through the Muni lot, and you see everybody out there, the excitement that was there, and then past Burke Lakefront Airport, and it felt like, to my amateur eye, there were 1,000 private jets there. I'd never seen. I mean, they were literally everywhere at that airport. I had never seen that before. And
I mean, Julia Roberts was in town. Cher was in town. Ozzy was in town. Everybody was in town.
Yeah, so as I walk into the building and then we're getting ready to do a countdown, it's every 2 minutes, PJ's taken off. It was really actually kind of funny. I'm like, man, this portends well for the day. But you had kind of that roller coaster dichotomy that in some ways, and unfortunately for the Browns season in terms of the record, it hasn't been much of a dichotomy. But even in the introductions, from some people that were fan favorites, some that were not, and then Nick Chubb, obviously the massive ovation and the goosebumps that we all had in the booth. And you're saying to yourself, this is the day. This team gets back on track today. And then the opening kickoff happens. And it's 7-0 Bengals. Untouched, basically, for the first 85 yards of his return, Charlie Jones. And you're saying, here we go again. And I try to be positive and say, we started the Giants game kind of in a similar fashion.
And can I interrupt real quick?
You may.
Because this is
your show, brother.
No. This is a push-pull between us. And not in a combative way, but on Sundays in the booth, just to take people inside, we both kind of deal with things differently. And sometimes you're not negative. This is off the air. You're like, oh, man, what was me? And sometimes I'm the no. Like, we can do this. And I think it's actually like a really good mix that way. But there's always that push-pull between us. But I wanted to say, I kind of felt what you felt after the Charlie Jones run back,
right.
After I got past the, wait a minute, is he in or out of bounds there? Because the officials couldn't make up their mind.
Sure.
And it's a touchdown. But yes, I feel you. Keep going.
Yeah, so that was, wasn't a strong start. And then defense is playing great. And you're like, okay, they play well against Burrow. He's never won in this building. This is setting up well. But again, the offense, while some of the stats look good, completion percentage for Deshaun certainly looked good. It just wasn't yielding anything. And then you get down there and you're like, okay, we're kind of in a position to score some points here. And then it happens, and it's the design quarterback run. And we watched it, and the way he went down, I was kind of like, that was weird. And we thought maybe he lost his footing, and then it was like, oh, man.
Here's the replay.
Yep, and you're like, okay, we knew right away that was his Achilles and that was going to be very serious. And then it became this very odd scene, and I think generally speaking, a somber scene. We know that there were some things that may have happened that players were unhappy about, but I'm focusing on just the general from where we were in the booth. It was this kind of hush falls over the stadium, and then you realize right there, who knows if or when Deshaun Watson will play again, because this is a significant injury. DTR comes in, gets the pass interference. It's kind of the first pass we'd even really seen go down the field. And then we get down to the one, and we're like, man, Nick Chubb, this is what it's all about. Get him into the end zone. He does, but as has happened 3 weeks in a row, inside the 5-yard line of the opponent, an offensive line penalty.
I don't think Michael Dunn lined up offsides. I'm not one to always criticize the officials.
So I watched it, and there's no good shot on the all-22. What I'll say is, because you mentioned it to me.
And the TV copy, there's no good shot either. You don't see it.
No. So he got so low, and it's like next man, low man wins, obviously, in the trenches, that it almost looked like his head was where the ball was. So I'm guessing that perhaps it was an optical illusion. I don't know that he was actually offsides, but he was lined up in a very different way than everybody around him.
So pull the curtain back a little bit on officiating. That is a point of emphasis specifically because of the tush-push. Because of how Philadelphia has been so successful the last couple of years, that is a way. You're not going to take the tush-push away. Right? Even JOK 2 weeks ago said he's all for it, like keep it until somebody stops it. But the way they're trying to police it a little bit is telling those old linemen, and it wasn't a tush-push. They handed it off to Nick.
And by the way, they ran left.
Exactly.
It had nothing to do with Michael.
Telling those old linemen, you can't get that low.
So I wonder if that's what they were.
I think that's what
could
it
have
might
been.
have been.
That's what stood it. When I looked at it, what looked abnormal to me was how bent over and low he was. Nonetheless, back it up. You end up getting down there, 4th down, and boom, in goes Nick Chubb. And you're, yes! What a great moment. Think about everything that the guy's been through. The crowd is going nuts. There was an energy in the building. We're back, baby, right? Browns are back. And then you miss the extra point. And it was similar in Vegas. You get the Rodney McLeod scoop and score, and then you miss the extra point. And then it's that little deflating.
But it's only 7-6.
Only 7-6, and now you've already had a missed field goal, though. You've had this. You feel like, man, we should be ahead. We're going to get the ball to start the second half. And unfortunately, you have a nice drive going on a 4th down play. You need one guy to make a block, Deontay Foreman to pick up Von Bell. He doesn't. It incomplete, and it felt like from that point on, that was it. So that's a very long-winded way of saying that it was a game where you came into it and said, listen, we haven't lost here to this team since 2017. This is the time to get right. We win this game, guess what? Even though we did bad against the NFC East, we're 2-1 in the AFC, 1-0 in the division. Maybe we're not out of this just yet, and then there would be signs of good, and then something bad, or good, bad, a little good, so you're back. Oh, man, we're back. And unfortunately, it came up short, and then you left it with now not just questions about this team for this season that's been off to an unbelievably disappointing start, but you're left with questions now. Who are we in 2025 and beyond? And are we immediately, and I think the answer is yes, back into trying to figure out, is there an in-house solution, and that would be DTR, to this quarterback problem? Or are we looking at the draft again and trying to find somebody to play that position for us long term?
And that answer, obviously, is part of what you have to unpack the rest of the season. The question is, when will DTR be ready to go out there to get that next test? Last year in Denver, he had his moments. You're like, all right, I could see it.
Last 3 possessions yielded points.
Exactly. In Pittsburgh, against Pittsburgh, rather, here, look, they won. He made the plays at the end of the game. That's all that matters. You're a rookie quarterback. You're a 5th-round pick. You had the week of preparation, unlike the Ravens game in September. You had your week. You showed signs. Talking to somebody on the Cincinnati side before the game, before any of this happened, and they pointed out, hey, we really like DTR coming out. People liked Dorian Thompson-Robinson coming out of the draft. I remember when I was at NFL Network, we're doing the Senior Bowl. I was talking to Daniel Jeremiah. DTR wasn't actually there at the Senior Bowl, if memory serves, but I said, hey, give me a quarterback. Forget about the first-round guys. Give me a quarterback where you say, if I have that guy as a rookie on my roster and I need somebody that could get me through a few games in the middle of the season, a guy that's a real player, a guy that I believe in. He goes, I'll take Dorian Thompson-Robinson. So there is a belief, not just here in this building. He was the number 2 yesterday
they
for
called
a reason.
Teams
Absolutely.
called for him this preseason.
There is a belief that DTR can be that guy. Now, as we sit here, full disclosure, we're taping this on Monday afternoon.
Yep.
As we sit here, his status is still up in the air. Whether it is this week against Baltimore or whether it's maybe after the bye, middle of November.
I like that.
Dorian Thompson-Robinson deserves and is going to get a shot.
Agreed.
I believe in the guy.
Same.
He now has potentially 6 weeks to show what he can do. And it really is a test because you win a couple of games, then you're not potentially in a draft position to go get one of the primo guys. And that's always the difficult thing, right? If I'm just going down the road of, you said, do you potentially go draft a quarterback? I know it's very early, right?
And it's wild that we're talking about it.
Exceedingly early.
Yeah.
Exceedingly early. But it's that weird thing in the NFL. I'll go back to Dak. People say, well, they should have let Dak's contract go. Hold on. Play it out. Go to free agency. I'm like, okay. But you weren't going to be so bad that you were in a position to replace him at the top of the draft next year.
Right.
It's a weird position to be in.
It is. And I think, in my mind, this is, again, to me speaking, I think you start Jameis the 2 home games, take the bye week, and then you give DTR 2 weeks to get ready and say you've got 8 games the rest of the season to show us what you can do and what you can be. And if it goes
Absolutely.
well, perhaps that's great. Now you could say, okay, we got a guy on a 5th-round deal for 2 more years that we can roll with, and we'll try to build around him. And if it's not, then likely you will be in a position to take one of those early quarterbacks. So I think that's where you are. I do have a lot of belief in DTR. I know the team has a lot of belief. You saw the way they react to him on the sideline. He has a leadership quality about him. He played a lot in college. He holds every record at UCLA that you could possibly hold. I like him a lot, and he's going to get his opportunity now to be that guy at some point this season. It'll be up to Kevin Stefanski, obviously, when that is, and his finger obviously will play a role in that. And it actually, the injury to his finger occurred, I talked to him after the game, prior to the interception. We thought it happened
prior
on
to the
return.
tackle. I thought it was on the tackle.
No, it was on when he got knocked to the ground once and put his hand down, and somehow that got it. So you wonder if does that affect his ability to grip the football and when he airmails Jerry Jeudy? And probably the answer is
yes. You would think.
You would think. So I'm excited to see him. And it's kind of stunning, that this is where we are. We did know that the Browns, even prior to this game, had an idea that they were already at least maybe a toe into 2025 when you traded Amari Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're probably a full firm foot into 2025 and beyond.
We also have to put a foot into Week 8 as well. That sounded odd, but you get my point just going with what you had there. Week 8 is the Ravens. Ravens, tied to DTR, obviously came here. He didn't necessarily expect whatever.
Very difficult situation.
Very difficult situation. He was thrust onto the field. It didn't necessarily go well. I mentioned the Steelers game. It went better when the next time he got that opportunity. One, however, in Baltimore last year, and one with the defense stepping up and making plays. This defense in many ways was built to go after a guy like Lamar Jackson, right? Speed on defense, speed on the line, Michael Hall in the middle. JOK was very much a player who was drafted with Lamar Jackson in mind. There is a blueprint that this defense has, and the defense that held Joe Burrow to only 14 in that loss. Remember, 7 came from the kickoff. This defense has shown the ability to, no one stops a 2-time MVP, but shown the ability to make it difficult and frustrating for him. But this year, it's not just Lamar Jackson. That Derrick Henry guy is pretty good, and that changes the math with everything. He is now running against light boxes for the first time in his career. That's scary.
Yeah, and he's been scary. He's going into this week's game, was the leading rusher in terms of yards per game in the National Football League. They've got Zay Flowers. Mark Andrews is finally rounding into form. They're using a lot of multiple tight end formations, and Isaiah Likely and even Kohler are doing well. They are a full day. But to your point, the Browns have done a great job. You go back to that year last year. Browns were down double digits in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
And you get a Greg Newsome pick 6, and then the Browns are able to go on and ultimately win that football game. But yeah, you are built in many ways to deal with Lamar Jackson. With the sideline-to-sideline speed, you have the ability to put not only JOK, but delp it down in the box as we do. And it's going to be a very tall task. We are going to have to be better tacklers than we have been. We had another game with, a dozen missed tackles last week against the Bengals. You're going to have to be better because Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson are the kind of guys that if you miss tackles on them can make you pay by. And when I say make you pay, take it to the house.
Absolutely. I know I've said this to you countless times off the air, but now that we're in the Bark Tank, on the air, truly do mean it. Thank you for making my transition as easy as it could be in the booth and during the week, because I'm not necessarily here and you are, and doing all the dirty work and all the, not dirty, you know what I'm saying, but doing all the heavy lifting during the week. So I appreciate you.
Appreciate you as well, and hopefully we'll get to call some more wins. And I guess I could have answered your original question,
which was
easier.
Walking in the door?
Yeah. Where's the wine? That was kind of how I saw it. Where's the wine?
It's funny. I had dinner with my brother and my niece who came to town. You saw them before the game, and then we had dinner and took them back to the airport. And then I stopped, picked up a sixer of Joe Thomas Kolsch.
Yes, Kolsch 73.
Went home, put my feet up on the table, and fell asleep watching Steelers fans boo Russell Wilson.
And then when you woke up,
I woke up.
Yeah, they were on the Jets. And
I'm like, wait a minute. I fell asleep. They were losing.
Well, hopefully we'll have those similar toasts in the future
Absolutely.
in celebration. But thank you as well.
Right. That's Nathan Zegura, everybody. Obviously, listen to him during the week on CBD and the Browns YouTube channel and everywhere on the Browns media platforms. That's going to be it for this edition of the Bark Tank. We are back next week after Week 8, after what will be, fingers crossed here, right? This is like bulletin board material, a win over the Ravens. See you then.